Hello. Today, we will be talking about Democrats' future strategy, not only for 2028, but for the years ahead as well. Kind of looking at trends, looking at the way things go, looking at maybe what they should focus on, what they should probably let go of. And yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to have a couple classifications. First, we're going to have states that were considered swing states that aren't anymore. Then we're going to have states that are considered swing states, but Democrats should probably give up on or focus less on. And then we're going to have the absolutely necessary states. So first, we're going to get to ones that were considered swing states but aren't really anymore. And that's Iowa. I don't even remember. I mean, Iowa hasn't been a swing state nearly in 10, 15 years, since maybe 2012. Yeah, I think we kind of got to leave the Obama era. It's been a while. We need an identity, and we need to focus on this new era that we're living in right now. Ohio, that's another one. Ohio's lost. It's gone. It's tough to see, but that's just kind of the world you have to live in. Then we're going to go for the Democrats. Minnesota. Minnesota is actually the most commonly Democratic state. It has been going for 40 years. It was the only state that voted for Mondale because of, and it will stay where it is. Same thing with New Hampshire. New Hampshire voted for Hillary. It voted for Kamala. I don't think it's a state you have to worry about. New Hampshire is a very libertarian state, but I think unless you really, really mess up, I think New Hampshire is fine. But if you really, really mess up, I mean, New Jersey was closer than you want last time as well. Virginia is another one. You can pencil in Virginia for Democrats every time. And then for Republicans, Florida. I don't like to say it. I don't want to say it. It was only 5 years ago that it was considered a swing state, and it's not like work should stop, because there are people in Florida who are living tough lives, especially marginalized people in Florida whose lives will get worse if Republicans are allowed to continue keeping power there. Right, so I think work should be done in Florida, but in terms of specifically winning national elections, I think it should be basically dropped off. It should be like you can say whatever you want, like, oh, well, it's not full red, but for all intents and purposes, I mean, there's a reason I haven't highlighted Texas yet. Florida has honestly kind of shifted from Texas to becoming kind of the co-head of the Republican Party, partially due to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, partially due to DeSantis' national recognition. Florida is kind of, right now, Republican heaven. And you can see it's now the third biggest state in the country in terms of electoral votes, which was a recent flip that New York and Florida had. So I think local elections, you can work to maybe build back the support you might have had in Florida, but Florida is quickly becoming one of the worst states for Democrats. Okay. Now we get to the states that I think could be maybe worth. I think you could win Florida in a landslide, by the way. Don't think I don't think that, but anyway. We're moving on to the states that now might be worth looking at, but not fully worth it. First is Texas. The thing about Texas is Texas is both important and not important. If the Democrats could flip Texas, look at this. You need one state. You need one swing state. Now, this election, Kamala could have won Texas. It's still lost, which is bad. But if you could flip Texas, that would be an absolute game changer. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I think Texas is a nice to have. It's not a need to have. It is a state that needs more work. I think funding local elections there, like Florida, but I think Texas has a better outlook. Funding local elections there and really building a Democratic stronghold in Austin, I think could be a very, very useful thing to do. It's just probably not a 2028 thing. I mean, I know before the 24 election, people were saying it might be a 2028 thing, not a 2024 thing, but due to how bad that election went, I think we see that Texas is going to need more time. And we need to get ourselves right before we start looking at things that are necessary. So Texas is a nice to have for Democrats. I think Arizona is also a nice to have. It's not necessary. It's good that Biden won it. Winning Arizona and Nevada gave yourself a nice foothold in the Southwest, but which also could kind of help you with Texas, but in the end of the day, you don't need it. You should, like every other state, focus on local elections, focus on winning Senate seats, focus on keeping Mark Kelly in there, even though Mark Kelly isn't the best. Focus on keeping him there. Focus on winning races, right? You got the governorship and you have a senator right now. That's really what you got to focus on. Next, and that's really kind of it for the nice to haves. Now we're going to the should haves. These are the ones that you really want, but maybe are not the top area of focus, and that's going to be these three. North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada are both states you would like to have. They're better than nice to have states. They're states you should have if you want to win an election. But you really don't need both of them, right? We saw Biden won was just one of them. If you can just win one of the two, you end up in a pretty good spot, right? I mean, I think you win one of the two, you don't even need every Rust Belt state. But in the end, North Carolina, Georgia, they don't vote together. They vote at different rates. They're not culturally that connected. They're just connected as in they both have some cities that allow them to sway left when both of their rural areas are less left wing, besides like college towns. Like I know Boone up here is blue, but that's you're focusing in Raleigh, Charlotte, Atlanta. Nevada's kind of a similar thing. I mean, Hillary won Nevada. I was very, very, very shocked that Kamala didn't, because I did not think that Kamala would do worse than Hillary. That was very shocking to me. But Nevada is a state you don't need. It's not worth a lot. Obviously, you'd rather have North Carolina or Georgia than Nevada, but it's in the end of the day, you can live without Nevada, but it really helps. Right, that's the big thing about these next three states is they really, really help. Right, if you can win one of these, you have a larger margin for error. If you lose all three of them, your margin for error is 0, because Republicans are one Rust Belt state winning. Right, and then we have the main ones, the big three, the Rust Belt. I think we got away from the Rust Belt a little too much last election. We got Tim Walz in with the hope that he would help in the Midwest, and he helped in Minnesota. We don't need Minnesota, dude. We need the Midwest. That is the focus. And I think a lot of our selection should be based on who can we win in the Midwest. Because if we look at it, right? I didn't mean to make New York gray. If we look at it, right? Virginia is solid. Minnesota's solid. New Hampshire's solid. Colorado, New Mexico's solid. Those are all states that maybe at once were considered swing states, but we got them now. Right? If you pick up North Carolina, you do need Pennsylvania. You need Pennsylvania, and then you could pick between these two. Right? You don't need all of them, although they do tend to vote together. It's been a while since they haven't. Even last election, where it looked like maybe Michigan or Wisconsin was going to go rogue, or maybe Pennsylvania was going to start off well. That's just, they're going to vote together. And if you can focus on a strategy that wins you these three, I'd almost say just forget. Forget about Texas. 100% forget about Texas. Forget about Florida. We don't need Florida. Forget about Arizona. We like Arizona. But, I mean, if you can just win the states I said not to forget about, you have a great win. If you pick up Arizona, Texas, and Florida, this is blowout territory. This is landslide. All right, and I think we're in a position where we have to understand that a landslide is not going to happen. The people are right-wing right now. The Republicans have completely, in 2024, they completely took hold of the culture war. Nowadays, things are starting to swing back a little, but we cannot count on it. You have to win in 2028. Every decision you make has to be, how can we win? Not only how can we win, how can we get a foothold, right? If you can get, think about this. If you can get a foothold in the Midwest, like a real foothold, you can get some real solid support, right? And you can turn one of these states, right? Texas, Florida, and Arizona. Now I'll keep Arizona. If you can turn one of these states, one of these gray states, into a state like Virginia, a state like Minnesota, State like Colorado, state like New Hampshire, state like New Mexico. Maryland is not in that category. You will be in such a good position for the future. Because if we think about swing states, Democrats have claimed Virginia, New Hampshire, right? They've claimed some Bush states, right? Virginia went to Bush in 2004, hasn't gone red since. But they've claimed Ohio, Iowa, and Florida, which is worth way more than Virginia, New Hampshire, even if you count Minnesota, Colorado, and New Mexico. This is a chance to really take it over. And you might be talking to me now. You might say, hey, the election is 3 years in the future. But 3 years comes fast. And if we're not ready, if we don't have the foothold, you work now. You work in the midterms to get your message out. You work in the midterms to get people in seats to help move these states left so that by the time election comes, your work will pay off. But you can't do all your work on election day. Your work starts right now. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania. Must-haves, just to recap. Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. Should-haves. Arizona, Texas, Florida. Forget about it. Arizona also could be a should-have. Not gonna lie, I just kind of want to balance it out a little bit. I don't think Arizona's necessary. Arizona, I don't think it's necessary. Arizona is kind of on the border between nice to have and should have. But get yourself out of Texas, get yourself out of Florida, get yourself out of Ohio, get yourself out of Iowa. Those are not flipping. And do not mess around with any of these other states. Don't mess around with Missouri. Don't mess around with northern Maine. Don't mess around with Indiana, right? We're not Obama anymore. Okay, we have to form our new identity. Subscribe. All right, typically I talk about the news, but I want to talk about this today because I talk about what I want to talk about.